tal? Creo que ya estamos en vivo. Si alguien nos puede confirmar ahí en el chat, se los agradecemos mucho de que nos escuchemos bien y nos veamos bien. Nos da mucho gusto tener esta nueva Ear Candy Meeting del mes de abril de 2024. En esta ocasión tenemos a un invitado muy especial que creo que es ya, o más bien debe ser muy conocido por todos los que conformamos esta comunidad, ya que es pues todo un referente, ¿no? En el mundo de la programación en audio. Y bueno, estoy hablando de Joshua Hodge, The Audio Programmer, mejor conocido. Este, no quiero dar mucha introducción de él, ya que nos gustaría que él se introdujera primero, pero la dinámica de esta meeting, esta vez va a ser, vamos a tener un Q&A con Josh y este, va a ser enteramente en inglés. Entonces, esperamos que esto no sea un impedimento para muchos. Pero pueden ustedes dejar sus preguntas en el chat en español sin ningún problema y nosotros las vamos a traducir aquí en vivo. Pero sin más que decir, voy a hacer la transición a comenzar la charla en inglés. Muy bien. Entonces, hi Josh.
Hey, hola, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien. Nice to meet you, Josh. We're very happy to have you here. And if you can introduce yourself a little bit, uh, please go ahead.
Yeah, so my name is Josh. I'm the founder of the Audio Programmer. We're a audio programming community, and from that community, I've also had the opportunity to start a couple businesses out of that, including a audio plugin agency where we help creators uh, take their visions and make them a reality with audio plugins. And we also have a recruitment and contracting agency where we help companies big and small to find the right audio developers for their company. And now we have the YouTube video as the YouTube channel as well that we've been doing now since I was a student back in 2017, and now we've grown to growing on nearly 40,000 subscribers now, and very proud of what we've done and what people have achieved. We've managed to help a lot of people get into audio plugin development, and I'm just glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Josh, for being here. We are so happy to have you here, and you're like an inspiration for many of us. And it's so good to get the chance to talk with you. Like, if that's okay for you, like we were start with some questions that we have to get to you to know you a little better. I would like to start with the following one. Like, before becoming a figure in the audio programming industry, you have a vibrant career as a DJ and music producer. Could you share a little bit more about your journey in the music industry and what drew you to perform across so many countries?
Yeah, so before I was doing audio programming, I was a DJ. I DJed for nearly 20 years. It started off, of course, in my bedroom, and then I started DJing at some clubs in Texas when I was living in Texas, and then eventually I moved over to England and I was DJing there, and I'd won a couple DJ competitions,
Nice.
and that allowed me to start traveling around. And over time, I ended up touring in over 25 countries. So
Wow.
yeah, so places like China, Dubai, India, then into Africa, in Kenya, Egypt, and then all throughout Europe, Ibiza, Spain, France, Switzerland, Germany, all over. So very fortunate. Yeah.
Well,
And that got me into music production as well. So I started producing some music. I never really quite caught on the music production, but I got a chance to do some releases with independent labels. I did some remixes for major labels. Nothing that I think people would really know, but I got to do it. It was a fantastic experience, and that's that eventually led me to start getting curious about what happens behind how music gets created, how these instruments get created. And that's what led me to go to university in London at Goldsmiths, and where I took a course called music computing, which was a 3-year course, not
Okay.
specific plugin development, but more globally, more generally on audio and software development. And I got fascinated by that world, and that's eventually what led me to start the channel.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. Would you say that the audio and music programs that are out there in college like are super useful to get to start with programming in JUICE, or there are like topics on electronics, and what do you think about those?
Yeah, it's a very interesting space. At the time when I started studying, there weren't really a whole lot of programs that were dedicated specifically towards audio plugin development and towards studying JUICE specifically. They were more generally, well, I can speak for my course and for a lot of courses like this, which are that generally they tend to be more catch-all in terms of there are some people that want to get into audio plugin development. Then there are other people who maybe they're musicians or maybe they're artists, but they want to use software development to add on to their skills. Maybe they're like a saxophone player. They want to use something like Max MSP to help enhance their creativity with their instrument. There are other people that are sound artists. So before I started studying, I wasn't even aware that people were using sound as art. And so I think a lot of universities that have these types of courses, they tend to be more, they try to catch a lot of different types of interests at the intersection of audio and coding. But mine was specifically because I had experience in the industry DJing and producing music. It was just natural for me to go more towards audio plugin development, DJ applications, that sort of thing, since I knew a bit about that space already.
All right. And well, regarding this DJ part, we have a first question here in the YouTube streaming from Paulo. He's from Ecuador, actually.
Oh,
So,
hola, Paulo. I know Paulo. Yeah.
He's asking, what was your DJ stage name?
So my DJ stage name, I'll actually write it in the chat, was DJ at War, but it was spelled DJ and then the at sign and then WAR.
Okay.
And then I also had a name that I also produced under called Atom Bomb. So if you search for either of those names in Spotify, you'll find a couple terribly, some of them really well produced, but and then other ones that are terribly mixed under both of those names. So.
What type of music did you like to play?
So my DJing career itself, I got to do a little bit of everything. So it started off with hip hop and turntables and scratching and that side of DJing, which is where I originated from, just like DJ skills, practicing, and then it eventually evolved more into a style of DJing that they call open format, which means a mix of hip hop, rock music, house music, electronic music, a little like reggaeton, a little bit of everything, but mixed together creatively. 80s disco, just anything that you can think of, but mixed together in a creative type of way. And that was the style that eventually led me to travel around. But music that I produced was more electronic, like new disco, house, but like darker, the darker type of house, like something like electro music, that side of things. So I did a little bit of everything at one time or another.
You actually have your YouTube channel, right? Where you have a couple of videos like performing and the scratching and mixing. It was pretty fun to watch. So we can link
you've done your research. You've done
yeah,
your
so we can.
I've got a DJ. I've got a video in Macedonia. I've got a video up there from Korea. And I think that there are a couple other videos of making their way on the interwebs as well.
It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Do you think like was it an inspiration to build your own tools to perform your DJ style with your own hands? Like it was, do you think that it was a sort of inspiration to get into audio programming?
Well, when I got into audio programming, I didn't actually know what to expect. So basically, at that, to be honest, when I got to that point where I was looking at going to school, I was at a point where I thought I was 37 at the time, and that I thought, well, I don't want to DJ for the rest of my life. I felt like, so I'll tell you a little story. There were these times where I traveled to some countries that had a lot of poverty, like countries like India, and like Kenya. And I always had this feeling inside of me, like I wanted to do something more for the world than just play music. And
Mm.
that I didn't know exactly what that thing was going to be. Um, but I always had that feeling inside of me. And that um, when uh, there was this point in my DJing career where it felt like nothing was really happening. I felt like God kind of shut that door on me and said, we're not gonna, this isn't for you. This isn't the path for you anymore. And that I started looking around for what am I going to do next in my life. And I thought, well, I know, a lot of people are getting into tech, into computers. I know a little bit about music. And so I think I Googled music computing, and that led me to find that course at Goldsmiths that was called music computing. And I thought, coding and music, I've never written a line of code in my life. I have no
Mhm.
idea what this is about. And I just really dove in. I dove in and I didn't know what to expect. And I was fascinated by the world that I was in. I never thought about the people who actually create our applications like Serato and audio plugins. And it was just this whole new world for me. And I was very fascinated by it.
Well, wow,
All
it's pretty
right.
cool.
And well, talking about this starting from you, well, we really know that you were like the first person who many of us saw back in the day, or still are watching to learn how to program audio. But who was the one who teach you about audio programming, or
Well,
where? Mhm.
yeah, so when I was going to Goldsmiths, one thing that I was amazed by was just the how smart the professors were. They were literally the smartest people that I'd ever met in my life. And my first thought was, how is it that more people don't know about these people? Because
Mhm.
they just have the most creative ideas. They're just smarter than I could ever hope to be. And I just thought, how are these people not household names? So people like Rebecca Feebrink, who is a leading person in machine learning, and she was talking about machine learning and AI in music technology way before it's caught on recently, and some of the stuff that people were doing in university even in those times 2016 2017 are just now coming out. And
Mhm.
those and what people were doing then was amazing and was just blowing my mind. And I just thought, wow, how is it that there aren't more people that know about these amazing teachers and about these amazing creative technologies that are happening. So people like Rebecca Feebrink, Mick
Mhm.
Grierson, um, were people that they were my direct professors at university. And then um, actually I had a friend who was in the class ahead of me. His name was Leon Fedden, another very, very smart individual, another person who has done some really amazing things in AI and thought of ideas way before anybody else. And he actually did maybe one or two audio programming tutorials on YouTube.
Mm.
And I saw them and they were very inspiring for me, but he was very busy, and for one reason or another, he couldn't keep the consistency. And so
Mhm.
it was something, so he inspired me. And then another person who heavily inspired me was a person named Daniel Schiffman, who who he has he has a big coding, it's called the Coding Train on YouTube. It's huge YouTube channel. He has this
Yeah.
passion for teaching others, and he's just so excited to show
Yeah.
people creation. So he teaches primarily with uh, P5JS and with another language called processing, and just his excitement and just his radiance and just wanting to show other people what he's creating, and that just inspired me to get into it and to really just put my own spin on it.
Those tutorials are very funny to watch as well. Like it's super cool, like with the animations that you can have, and actually it's something that I don't know what you think, but people might not think the first of you can do creative things with
Right.
programming, right? Like it's like a
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that one thing that those languages do, P5JS and processing, is that it's very simple to download, and you get started so quickly. And for most people, one of your first creations is, can I get a ball that bounces around the screen? And and just being able to do that was amazing, and
like
it just felt like this, yeah, epiphany. And I thought, wow, can I help give people that type of epiphany as I'm learning myself with audio plugins, where most people when we start, the first plugin that we create is a gain dial, right? And just that creative process of being able to take something that you've created, and now you're opening it up in a DAW, and it's something that you've made, and it's simple and it doesn't do much, but you've made it, you've coded it, and it's real. That is something that it feels like magic.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like pure creation, right?
Yeah.
And
And I
and
and I
Josh,
still get that. I still get that magic feeling, that feeling that you've just created magic, because really it does feel like, there's this idea that's in your head, and now you've made it a reality. And there's something that's there's a connection that's very strong in that.
yeah, yeah, it's like a level up of consciousness as well. I would say like no, I cannot put the words into this, but yeah, it's like a weird feeling, right? It's fantastic. Okay, Josh. Well, a quick recap on this is amazing. Like, thanks for sharing your experience as DJ and how like the travels that you made, the trips that you made, like help you to figure out like you wanted to do more. But it is very interesting as well. Like, and we would like to ask you like before getting into in Goldsmith, like you were part of the Air Force
Mhm.
and and we would like to know a little bit about that because I don't think that is something that when someone says Josh Hodge like the first thing is not there for. So what was that?
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Because for me, it feels like this lifetime ago as well. And it was something. So so I grew up in in I wouldn't say like a relatively poor household, but I I grew up where when I graduated high school, I wasn't sure what I was going to do with my life, and the Air Force offered this option to get out of my immediate area and to have options. And I'm very thankful to the Air Force, because it offered me so much in terms of it paid for my university, it paid for my school. So one of the big things of joining the Air Force was that you have a program where it pays for your school, and it actually helps you pay your living expenses while you're going to school as well, which is
Oh,
awesome. They really take care of you. And So in the Air Force, I was a mental health counselor. So
Mm.
so I worked with people who were having emotional challenges and things like that. And that it's so interesting how life is circular, because I think that a lot of those things that I experienced then came back around and helped me with the audio programmer, in terms of knowing how to help people and how to help build a community and being understanding of people, because the landscape of audio software development was very different when I when I
Sure.
first
Yeah.
started the audio programmer. I mean, there were a few places where you could try to get knowledge for learning how to do music and software development. But I think that a lot of those were a little bit more geared towards people who have been doing it for a long time. And those types of environments and those platforms were a little bit, hate to say it, they were pretty unkind to people that that were just getting started in audio software development. And so, as a person that was learning myself how to do it, I think that I was coming from this different perspective, in terms of being a person that was starting off and knowing how that felt, and also knowing how to convey the information that I was learning to other people in a way that may be different from a person who had been in the industry for 20 years. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I started the Discord and when I started that community, it was always about support. It was always about being encouraging of one another, and that no question was too simple or
Sure.
beneath us. And
Mm-hmm.
and so it was just this idea of anybody who's interested in this, come and join us, and let's learn how to build together. Let's figure this out. And it turned out to be something that I think other communities
Mm-hmm.
like Juice, the Audio Developer Conference, they ended up. I'm not saying it's because of me necessarily, but what I think is great is that eventually they started adopting that type of fostering type of environment, and that now the community seems a lot more supportive than when I joined and
Mm-hmm.
first started myself.
They
Yeah,
just
that
needed
community.
Josh. They don't. They just needed Josh to have in the community.
Well, it's nice. It's nice to feel that I had some type of impact, because I think that a lot of people have learned, and we've been able to, through our recruitment company, we've been able to help a lot of people find opportunities as well, and that feels extremely rewarding. It feels more rewarding to me than any tangible benefit like money. And of course, money is nice, right? We all have to live, and we all want to,
Sure.
we all want to survive and thrive and everything. But there's something that's more important out there, that is about being able to help others with whatever their challenges are, whether it's a music producer that's trying to create a plugin and they want to take their vision and make that a reality. It's like there's something about helping people uh to take that challenge and helping them out with that, and helping them through that, helping a person learn how to create their first plugin, helping a person to find their first opportunity in the industry. um, Everybody has their own motivations. For me, it's helping to bring other people up.
Wow, that's very inspiring, and it's very interesting to this like this precedent of you like to helping in the Air Force back in then, and those like those skills like sort of uh transferred into now this right. So I think it's very inspiring, and yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's like I said, it's funny because when I look back on the past, 20 to 25 years, it all looks like poetry, and that's how it was meant to happen. And like I said, I'm a believer in God, and
Uh-huh.
and his plan. And sometimes life has a funny way of doing that, in that DJing, when I stopped DJing, and I had to go to university. I'll be honest, I was at a very low point in my life, where I didn't feel like I had options. And luckily, I had that option to go to school, but that I felt like a failure because DJing didn't work out, and I wasn't a global
Mhm.
superstar. But in actuality, it has, there's this way that your defeats can turn into victories if you just give it
Exactly.
if you zoom
Yeah.
out, give it a little bit more time. So life is funny like that, and it has this poetry that
Sure.
that goes along with it. And like I said, I'm grateful.
Yeah, it's pretty inspiring because it also, I think, makes the points that pivot is fine, right? Pivot careers is fine, like choose different things is fine. It's no later time. Like you can do it later. It's okay, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, Josh, let me segue this part into a more plugins and C++ and audio programming topic.
Mhm.
And this way we can also try to answer some of the YouTube chat questions because they are a little bit more into that part. So
Yeah.
let me start this with a simple question about Juice and C++. How are the advantages you see in these tools right now for audio programming? And how do you compare these tools, like are like the most common and popular tools to develop audio plugins and audio software against other tools that maybe you've tried, maybe this new language C major from
Mm.
Julian or maybe
Jules.
another framework like iPlug or I don't know. How,
Max, yeah. Why?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that one of the biggest, so in the beginning when I started, like I said, there wasn't a lot of domain knowledge that was floating around. So it's very
Mhm.
difficult to find a foothold on how to get started. And um, you know, all I gotta say is thank God for Juice, because it really was this thing that really took a lot of complex knowledge and really helped simplify it, especially in the beginning with the Producer. So Producer, for people who don't know, is this way that you can download Juice, and that it's just this way that you could hit a button and you could just basically start a project. And the world of C++ is still really complex, but I think that it did just enough in order to be able to abstract that difficult part out of just getting set up. Because otherwise, without the Producer, then you would have had to deal with CMake or some other type of build system in order to set up your project. And
Mhm.
that uh yeah, I really think that the Producer was one of those things that just really helped me in terms of getting set up and getting started. And like I said, that what Juice did, especially in the beginning, was to really abstract out a lot of the difficulty that is just, if you knew about all of the things that Juice did under the hood, you would just be overwhelmed. You would just be
Sure.
overwhelmed with like platform specific technologies. Just how do you get something on a window on a screen on a
Yeah.
Mac versus Windows is different, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Juice does all this stuff under the hood, and it's just it's still such a fantastic tool. They're big shout out to the Juice team. They're some of the most talented people in the world, and they work really hard for to keep it running, to keep doing more features, to keep and so so of course, Juice does that in a great way. iPlug is another one that is another
Mhm.
technology that people are familiar with. I'm not as familiar with iPlug, but it's developed by a person named Oli Larkin, who now works at Ableton.
Yeah.
Another very smart
Yeah.
individual, really awesome. Uh, and I think that iPlug is another way that you can do audio plugins. I think that from what I understand, there are some different paradigms there, and
Mhm.
that writing an iPlug is a little bit different from what you may experience in Juice. But I really want to try out iPlug, and I want to give it a spin and really see. But the thing about iPlug, just from I've had Oli on my channel, and himself. And the thing is that you need to already have some fundamentals in place just to get started with iPlug. So you need to know a little bit about command line. You need to know about how to just navigate your way around and know some fundamentals before you get started. That's the thing that, like I said, that Juice just really abstracted out, is almost that like going back to that P5JS and processing, where it's like you can just download something and you can get your project up and running really quickly. But that also makes me excited about another technology that I've been working with lately, which is called C major. So C major is really, I really love C major. The thing that I love about it, there are some things that I love about it, and then there are some things that I think are kind of drawbacks about it as well, that make it a little bit more challenging as well. So the thing that I love about it is that a lot of the problems and a lot of the drawbacks of developing in C++ are actually solved in C major. So things like long compile times. So you have to wait a long time for your project to build and to actually get to result. And also when you're trying to build a plugin, right? So you have to like attach it to a process in order to be able to open it up in a DAW, in order to open up your plugin and a project and be able to debug it. And then you hear something or you see something on the user interface and you're like, oh, I don't like that. You have to stop. You have to type something else, rebuild,
to compile again.
So the iteration time is very long there. And I think that C major has that immediate benefit where you can just run a plugin and you can actually edit both the DSP and the user interface, and it just hot reloads in real time. And you hear the result right away. That's so much faster. And I think that once people get used to that fast iteration, it'll be very difficult to go back to, okay, I need to wait for this to load and I need to wait for this to recompile. Technology just moves forward. It doesn't really move back,
For sure.
On the drawbacks, it is a domain specific language. So with that, there are risks there. There are risks in terms of if you're making that investment into learning that language, then you can't take it and port the knowledge of that language to other domains. For example, if you do C++ and you get to know C++ really well, and that doesn't work out, you could maybe go to games, or you can maybe go to finance, and that knowledge becomes a little bit more portable and more of an investment that you can take and switch to domains if you're really good. But with a domain specific language like C major, it's kind of like Max MSP, right? Another domain specific language, which is that you know it and you can use it, but you can only really use it for that problem that you're trying to solve, right? I think that's really what C major is. It's really that thing that it's like, if you're trying to solve this specific problem, this is a viable solution. Because like I said, it really simplifies a lot of the complexity that you would normally have to do with C++, multi-threading, compile times, loads of things like that. Efficiency, also portability is another thing that I really love about C major. So I really think that the future is having plugins that run on the web. I'm not necessarily saying on the web as in a DAW. I think that has a place as well, but I'm saying the power of when somebody goes to your product page to be able to test the plugin directly in the browser without you downloading anything is so powerful, right? And C major allows you to do that because you're developing your user interface in JavaScript, HTML, and CSS.
Yes.
So that's the language of the web. And then the other thing is that C major can what's it called?
Just in time compilation, right?
Yeah. So you have just in time, but you can also generate WASM. That's what I was the web assembly from it, or you can generate JavaScript from it as well. which means you can just put it online. You can put it online, you can put it in a plugin, you can put it on hardware. So you can take that same code and you can move it to multiple places. And that portability, I think, is so powerful. And I think that's very powerful. And that's why I really love C major. And you can make a Juice project out of it as well. So if you want to do a bit of DSP and do that in C major, and then you say, okay, well, I'm comfortable working in Juice and I want to build this whole Juice project around.
Yeah.
You can you can basically hit generate. It'll generate a Juice project for you. And then and then you can work with the rest of the Juice project and you can make that into a plugin. You can make it into an app. So I think that portability is very powerful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you say that the C major would be like a not replacement, but a complementary tool in the audio industry for plugins? Or you would like to see like a one language standard for developing plugins in the future?
Well, I think what's happening now is I think that now we're coming into an age where there are all these different parts to building a plugin, right? So you have what you call plugin exporters, right? So where before Juice, you used to need Juice because you have all of these different plugin formats on all of these different platforms. So you have VST, right? You have AU, which is only on Mac, right? You have AAX. Now, before, like I said, this is the thing that's wonderful about Juice because it abstracts all of this out. And most people don't even know. They're just like, I just write my code, I hit this button, and it gives me a VST and an AU. But under the hood, the APIs for VST and for AU are different. So VST is made by Steinberg, AU is made by Apple, and how you communicate with those APIs is different. And what Juice has done that's been so awesome, and I think that people take a lot of it for granted, is that they've added this layer above it that has abstracted out that challenge. But now you have Clap, you have the Clap plugin format, and you actually have wrappers for Clap in AU and VST format. So, and that's cross-platform now. So that layer of abstraction that Juice used to do is, now you can take an alternative approach and you can use Clap. And it's not going to be an out of the box experience the way that Juice is. So that's what Juice does really well. So Juice does this kind of what I would call an out of box experience that works so well. Like if you have a Clap, if you try to do the same thing with Clap, you're going to need some coding skills in order to make your way around and to really understand what's going on and to familiarize with the way that it expects things, right? So now you've got the plugin exporters. So now you have that layer, and then you have the engine layer, right? Which is in Juice, like a Juice audio processor, right? Or Juice audio processor. So that's the engine get next audio block where you do your real-time DSP code. So now you're having a couple different options on that level as well. So you have Juice that you can use for that. You can also do C major, right? So that's really what C major is. It's a domain specific. It's an engine. It's an audio engine. Okay. So you can use iPlug for that. So now you have a couple different options there. You also have Elementary, which is another awesome language. Elementary is really nice because it's JavaScript. So it allows you to write real-time audio code using JavaScript. So once again, that has its advantages as well. So big shout to Nick Thompson, who wrote Elementary. He's super smart, really awesome. And so you have a couple options there that you can go with. And then you talk about the user interface layer, right? So before, once again, Juice is great because it has that out-of-box experience. It's like, okay, plugin exporters, are solid. The audio engine is solid. It's nice and integrated with those plugin exporters. And then you have the Juice user interface that's also solid. And all of that integrates nicely because you just code C++ all the way up and down the stack. And you have an all-encompassing solution, whereas the drawback when you look at C major, for instance, is that you have to, for your audio specific side, you have to think in C major, you have to think in that language. But then when you go to the user interface side, you're like, okay, now my brain needs to switch to JavaScript, HTML, CSS brain. And now I need to like start thinking in that direction. So that just means mentally you need to be able to make that context switch. You need to be able to switch your brain into different modes. And that that may sound like a small thing, and maybe it's a small thing for some people. For me, it's a very challenging thing.
For sure. Yeah. You are used to it something, and then this change of mindset is challenging, right? To adapt.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But now once again, you're going with so you have Juice has great widgets for, in C++ that allow you to make your custom user interface, but that has its own challenges, right? It has its own benefits, it has its own challenges. And now you have some people that are starting to look at using JavaScript, and now you have web views, right? Where some people are starting to use JavaScript, HTML, CSS for their user interfaces. So once again, you can do that. You can now these things start becoming a little bit less of like a vertical stack with Juice, where it's like this all-encompassing solution. And now it's like, okay, I can now switch these things in and out. And I could use Rainbow from Max MSP if I want to do biotic. So Rainbow / Max MSP and C major are quite similar in terms of the space that they occupy, right? And so you can start switching these different things out. And I think that that's really where the industry may be starting to go a little bit. So I think that you're going to have some people that love that. And that's once again, not to try to discount anything about Juice, because I think that they still solve a lot of problems that that aren't necessarily solved by any of the other tools in this space, not without a lot of work and a lot of, because the thing is that when you switch from Juice, now you're taking different parts and you're putting them together, and you don't have that cohesive structure anymore, right? So, and when you don't have that cohesive structure and you're putting, now you're putting kind of a Frankenstein together. And that means that, for instance, when you look at C major, for instance, then what you have is that they're basically saying, we're trying to tackle the audio engine, and we will give you like connections and hook-ins for your user interface, but we're not trying to solve the user interface problem. So they're not trying to become an all-encompassing solution. They're trying to just solve the audio engine side of things. And so they're basically saying the user interface, you can put whatever user interface you want to on this, but we're just concentrating on this problem. Whereas Juice is trying to solve the whole
full stack.
Like, it's almost like the Apple of audio software development. You know how when you get the hardware, the software goes with the hardware, and then it marries together. And that's really what Juice is. It's that all-encompassing solution to try to kind of, in one package, solve all of the problems. But I think what we may see now is a little bit of a divergence in terms of some people may try elementary, some people may try C major, some people may try, and then not only a divergence there, but also a divergence in user interfaces as well. Because when you start going into JavaScript, people start saying, okay, are we going to do this with React? Are we going to do this with Svelte? Are we going to do this with vanilla JavaScript? So I think that part of that like scares me, because I love all-encompassing solutions. Like I love Juice for that. I love that I'm like, I just get in there and I just do one thing, and it's like streamlined, and I love that approach. But at the same time, it's very exciting that there are these other solutions that are gonna push creatively on our capabilities. So I don't know if you've seen, for example, Lunacy Audio's Beam plugin, but very interesting interface. It was built with JavaScript. I think that they did the plugin using Elementary. And that it has 3D objects. It looks like it was made with Unity. Rather.
Oh, yeah, right. Is it the
Yeah.
one that like connects with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
white
Yeah,
chords, something like that?
yeah.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
the one. That's the one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought the same thing that GUI should have been done by some like a video game programmer or something, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that I really think that people are going to start pushing the boundaries a little bit more that way. And because I think in terms of the flat UIs with our traditional dials and sliders and the way that we are used to interacting with plugins, I think that has been done more or less the same way that it's been done for the past 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
So that hasn't really changed a whole lot. And now I think that people are ready to start pushing not only on the boundaries of what user interfaces there are, but also in terms of how we interact.
Exactly. Yeah. Because back in the day, the plugins are trying to somehow emulate like physical processors, right? A compressor with knobs and meters and stuff. And we are used to that interface and that we're implementing in plugins. But is it the only way to interact with a plugin? Is like the question here, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look at some of the plugins that come out now, they're simple, they're more simple, right? But and sometimes you don't even know exactly what's happening under the hood.
Exactly.
But maybe it's interesting and it's creative. And I think that the younger generation resonates with that type of workflow. Some people like really hate that it's going in that direction.
Yeah.
It's not my choice, right? It's
Yeah.
not
For sure.
it's not, I don't control it. I'm just saying where I see things going. In terms of, and really when you look at the younger generation in terms of their music creation process as well, that they're also thinking about music and contextualizing music in such a different way than I did in the 80s and 90s. So I see people that are doing things like how quickly can I make a beat, and doing like a beat race, trying to make a beat in under 30 seconds. Making it more like a game, and doing live streaming beat making. And so I think just the idea of a plugin in itself, I think can be explored further. I think there are further opportunities for exploration there. And that generally speaking, I think that the companies aren't being adventurous enough in terms of what they're offering there.
Yeah. Wow. So Josh, like let me ask you, like this connect with a question with the chat from Ed Monks. Like in all this sea of tools, like languages, and it could be like overwhelming for someone that is just starting, right? It happening to you, it happening to us. Like, in your experience, Josh, like for someone who wants to get into plugin development, but lacks for DSP knowledge or software development knowledge, what would you recommend, like a foundational steps to get into it, like and maybe not be super overwhelmed and just starting to get things done?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and some of it depends on what you're looking to do, what you want to create. So if you want to create a pardon me, if you want to create a DJ application, that's a little bit different from creating a string sampling instrument, which is a little bit different from creating a really cool audio effect. So some of it is domain specific in terms of, well, what is it that you want to create. In terms of just dipping your toe in, I think once again, Juice is a great starting point. It's a great place to using the producer, getting up and started really quickly, and then following the tutorials. Like Juice has great tutorials. Of course, yourselves, you have a course that you do. We also have a book. We have one book that we've released already on building synthesizers.
Congrats on that.
Thank you. And we actually have another book that's coming out in early June as well, and it's geared towards people that want to start. And it's actually called Getting Started I don't have the name of it. Let me get the name of it really quickly, because we actually just decided on the name of the book today.
Wow.
Yeah. So the name of the book is going to be called The Complete Beginner's Guide to Audio Plugin Development. So you're getting the exclusive right now. That just announced.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's coming out in early June. And it's literally that. So you haven't written, so the problem space is you haven't written a line of code in your life, and you don't know where to start. And this is the book that will be the guide to help you get started. What to download, what to install, how to, what everything means. Yeah, so that should help you get started. But I would say, start, I have some tutorials up there that are now like 4 or 5, 6 years old now. But I think that one of the things that people resonated with the audio programmer was that, I was coming from a perspective, and I still come from the perspective of a person that is just getting started, that I'm explaining things and explaining them in not like a computer scientist, but as a person that is looking to be creative. And I found that those types of explanations resonated well with people that were looking to get in. So I would say go back to those tutorials and take a look at and watch through those. But now, once again, there are a lot more resources online now than there were when I first started. On the Audio Developer Conference page, they have a lot of talks, loads of stuff from beginners to some of the most respected people in the industry talking about different things. Basically everything that you want to know is around. It's now available. Before, it wasn't even available. It didn't even exist online, and it was hidden. But now I think increasingly those things are getting out there into the world. If you look on GitHub as well, there's now loads of really interesting repositories, really interesting projects. I mean, if you want to build your own Juice, if you want to build your audio programming framework, there is knowledge that's out there on GitHub that shows you, hey, here are the tools that you need in order to get started if you want to build your own framework. Now you just need about 5 or 10 years to do it.
Well, at least it's something to start. Like, you have something to start. Okay. And in your experience, what are the most common mistakes in audio development and how developers can tackle them? Like, do you see any recurring things happening?
Oh yeah, loads. So I think the first thing is that people try to start too quickly. And that they say, I wanna create Serum. They come in and say, doing audio programming. They say, I want to create Ableton. I want to create Serum. I want to create Serato. How do I do that? And not really having a good understanding of how complex it is. I would say the other thing that I see that's a common mistake, it's a mistake that I make myself, more often than not, is that you can get into this type of workflow where you're just trying random things to try to get something working, and you're just trying randomly to do, you're stuck in a place and you're trying randomly to figure things out, and for some reason this thing isn't working and you're just trying random things. Whereas what you need to do is you really need to step, and what inevitably happens to me is that I always do this, and I do this sometimes I'll do this for a couple hours, and then I'll step back and then I'll look at what the compiler is saying to me, and I just really try to like digest what it's actually saying. And and a lot of times, embarrassingly, it turns out that it's actually telling you the thing that you really need to fix. And it's just right there in your face. And you just really haven't taken the time to really process through what it's trying, the error that it's trying to give you. Uh, and so sometimes you just need to slow down, and you really need to step back, and you really need to say, okay, what is happening here? You know,
Okay.
and the third thing I would say as well is debugging. A lot of people don't really know how to debug properly.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So by debugging, what I mean is breakpoints, stepping through your functions, looking at the values, looking at and once again, when you run into those problems, probably one of your first things that you should do, set a breakpoint and like stop and just step through and look at what are the values, what type of values are you expecting, because it will give you it will give you the it will show you where you've gone wrong. And sometimes, with debugging, especially when you're in large applications, it becomes very difficult to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Debugging, and it has to go further than just doing a console out, just logging to the console and just logging some values. You really have to learn how to step in, step out, step over functions and look at the values that are coming out and see if they make sense or not.
Okay, so debug properly, trust your compiler errors, like not because we always have this sort of meme, right? Like C++ errors, like unexpected error at line 50, 100, right? And nothing else. Right? So trust your compiler. It's wise. It's wise, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
pretty
I
cool.
mean, when it tells you that it's null, when it tells you that the value is null, for example, it's like that. A lot of times our instinct is just to try to ignore it and just try to figure out some way around it. And it's just telling you what is happening. It's saying, I'm looking into this memory location and I'm expecting there to be an object there or a value there, and it's not there. So stop and figure out why that's happening.
For sure. Okay, just like we wanted to have a big shout out to the chat. Like we have people, Joaquin from Uruguay, big shout out. Say hi to the chat, like, and Diego Edmonds, and we have a lot of questions in the chat. Some of them were actually already responded with this talk, so it is very nice. And we would like to get into the topic of AI, Josh, like in the field. So
yeah.
Like, what do you think of AI in the field? Like, have you used ChatGPT for some of your projects? Is something or other tools that could help? So what's the deal with AI?
Well, yeah, what's the deal with AI? So in terms of workflow, I think it's essential now. I
Okay.
mean, I use it all. I use it all the time. And my personal workflow is for C++ development. I use Lion, uh, which probably sounds like, I remember when I was using Xcode and Visual Studio, I felt like I was really protecting that, and that I was like, no, I love my Xcode. I want to, I don't want to, I know how it works. I don't want to go away from that. And
Yes.
people were telling me for years, try C lines, check it out, check it out, give it a try. And once I tried it, at first I was like, this is weird. I don't know if I like this. And
Yeah,
then,
that's me.
I don't know where anything is. And after a day, after a day of it, I was like, how did I get along without this? I've been missing out this whole time, because it has so many things that are awesome. One of the biggest things that it has is CMake debugging. So you can debug your CMake file and step through your
Okay, that's
Wow.
nice.
yeah, which is like so good. And another thing is that JetBrains, the company that makes CLine, they have their own AI. They have their own AI assistant, and I have tested it alongside GitHub's Copilot, using Visual Studio Code. and this is just my experience, it's like light years ahead.
Wow.
In terms of the accuracy of the solutions, and in terms of what the quality of the responses that it gives you. It's just, I don't know why. The quality of the answers is much, much better and much more on the spot. I mean, I've even had situations where I've been working with C major and with JavaScript in in VS Code, and I'm going back and forth with GitHub Copilot with Copilot, just trying to like get it to help me spit out like a sensible answer, and it's just going round and round, and it's not helping me figure out the solution. And then I'll go to the
Lion.
it's AI, and I'll just open it up in my scene line, but I'll just ask it a question about JavaScript, and it'll just solve it right away.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty awesome. Yeah, they've whatever they've done to tune that solution, it's is really good. And also, especially when you're going between so many disparate tools. So you have CMake, which is like its own language. You have JavaScript, which is, of course, its own language, which is HTML and CSS. And if you're trying to use that with C major, once again, you're just trying to like get to a result that works sensibly, right?
Right.
And it's so difficult, especially with JavaScript, because there are so many different ways to do things. It's unbelievable. That's one thing that I like about C++. It's like when you're in Juice, there's like 9 times out of 10, there's like 1 or possibly 2 ways to do things. Like if you want to set up a parameter, and that's one of the things that is a double-edged sword when it comes to Juice. And it's one of the things that I happen to love, which is that, okay, if you want to set up a parameter in Juice, there is one way to do that, right? Unless you want to write your own parameter system. It's like, there's one way to do that. The audio processor value tree state, that's how you do it. It's how you connect it. And that is how it gets done, right? And I love that. I love that there's just this built-in solution. This is how you set it up. And but when you're trying to do something in JavaScript, it's like, yeah, here are 10 ways that this thing can be done. And and if you're once again, there's multitude of libraries that you can use. So it just becomes this world of endless possibility. And sometimes that can paralyze you. That can paralyze you into a situation where you're like, oh, I'm just overwhelmed with all of this stuff coming at me. But having that assistant, using Copilot or using the JetBrains AI is really helps out with that, where it's like, okay, I don't know CMake that well, so I'm not a build engineer, but I just need it to help me bring this library in, and being able to have that conversation and that back and forth to help me, for example, import a library, really helps to get the workflow together. And it just, there are so many times where I feel like, oh wow, without that, I would have never got to this answer. I would have never figured out this solution.
That happens.
But so in terms of workflow, I think if you're not, especially for people who are just starting off, if you're not using it, you should probably use it, because it's very
using.
Yeah, and it's accelerated. Like I said, the JetBrains AI has accelerated and improved my C++ writing like exponentially.
Yeah.
So where sometimes I'll throw together a solution, or maybe the AI will help me put together a solution, and I know that it's just a hack and it's not very good. And then I'll say, you know what? There must be a modern. I'll just say to the assistant, you know what? There must be a modern solution to this. Is there a modern solution or best practices on how to do this? And it'll say, yeah, actually, you need to use this, and it'll show you this, C++ 17 style code or best practices on how to do it. And you're like, wow, that's really cool.
And is that embedded into Sea Lion?
Yeah, so it's actually inside the Sea Lion IDE. Yeah,
Sort of Copilot inside Sea Lion, sort of Copilot.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's like sort of, yeah, it's exactly like Copilot,
Okay.
you know, and
Be-
yeah, it's
Because,
really cool.
because I remember using Sea Lion like 2 years ago, but it was before they integrated these AI features in it. It was
Yeah,
nice. I really liked it, but I don't know why I switched back to Xcode. But
yeah.
now that you're telling me this, I think I will Sea Lion a new a new try
Yeah,
into.
To be more happy, avoid the pain from
yeah,
Xcode,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
and Josh, and in terms of, so you use these tools in terms of workflow, right?
Mhm.
It is also very cool to try to digest things of concepts of DSP with ChatGPT or another
Mhm.
LLM. But also, I don't know if you have tried like the image generation from ChatGPT or like Midjourney or something to get
Uh-huh.
assets like right away for the plugin. I don't know
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
have tried that.
I've never tried specifically to get assets for a plugin, but that's an interesting. Have you tried that
Mhm.
before?
Yeah. We
It
actually,
hasn't been effective.
sure. Like the channel strip, like can generate and implement right away in your Juice
Yeah,
plugin. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And it goes to show, like I said, that of course these LLMs have been trained on everything that we've made up to this point. And I think that it goes to say that it goes back to what we were saying about plugins, right? That I think that we need to get back to being human when it comes to plugins and really think about cool interactions and think outside of just convention and outside of just because otherwise we just get into this universe where we just spiral and just spit out conventional boring crap and we don't ever come up with anything interesting. So our brains are built to beat the machines,
For sure.
so we gotta control, we've got to use the magic that it gives us and the capability that it gives us to build better things. And I'm hoping that I'm hoping that that's what uh, comes out of it, and that it helps us build cooler things, better things,
Yeah.
creative things, and not just regurgitation of the same old thing. So that's what I'm
So
hoping.
you're optimistic about the topic of AI in our field.
Yeah, I think that there are definitely concerns in terms of yeah, of course the things that other people talk about, training on copyrighted material and things like that, and being able and replacement for artists. But
Yep.
I think that this will I think that this will correct itself. So one company that I work with
Mhm.
is called Voice Swap. So
Mm.
this is one of a couple companies that I think are trying to take AI and empower artists rather than trying to replace artists.
Sure.
So in this model, what we have is that a person can sing in their own voice, and that you can now you have singers and musicians that you can replace your voice with, and all of it is licensed. It's all legit. It's all like there are agreements in place and everything. So think of it almost like as like a track lib. If you're familiar, are you familiar with track lib at all?
No, no,
If
no.
you're
I'm
not
not familiar.
familiar with it, then that analogy won't work. But
Okay.
um, just to give you a little overview of what TrackLib is. TrackLib, so um, of course, many music producers, when they're creating they sample from other songs, right? So um, and a lot of producers, they don't know who to go to in order to get the sampling rights for their music productions. And so TrackLib came along and they basically said, okay, what we're going to do is we're making agreements with all of these publishing companies and license holders. So what you can do is you can go through our massive catalog. So we have a massive catalog of jazz artists, of all kinds of different artists that you can sample for your music productions. And basically what you can do is, rather than, ripping them off or or just not knowing where to go or who to ask to get clearance for your sample, we can help you do that. So we essentially become the one place that you can go to in order to license the samples, so you don't have to like go wandering around, and we can help you, and we essentially help you, or the platform that helps you license that ethically. So same thing for voice swap. So of course there are a lot of people that are out there that are illegally using voices that they don't have licensing rights to, things like that. And of course, you can't release those as songs because they're not properly licensed and they're illegal, basically. So this is a platform that's designed to where you can actually license voices, and that you can create agreements, simple agreements that will allow you to use their voices, to use musicians' voices, and essentially license the voice for creating music. So if you want to put out a song that you've written, and you want it to have a female voice, basically you could sing it, hit voice swap with a female singer, and now it becomes a female voice.
That's pretty cool.
Now you can license that, and it's an easy license. So so I think that there are a couple companies out there that are looking to empower rather than looking to replace.
For sure.
And I think that a lot of it goes back to, once again, when you look at the younger generation, how are they the way that they're interacting, and when you look at the next generation of music creators, they are, one thing that I can tell you for sure is that they're not going to create music the way that we create music. Right? Once again, it's not my fault. It's not my it's not the way that I would want it, but that's the way that it's going to be. And what we have to do is we just have to, as creators, we once again have to look to, well, how can we empower creativity? How can we empower artistry and empower our musicians without without just ripping off the people who have laid the path before us?
For sure.
So that's where I stand when it comes to AI. But I think there are a lot of really interesting workflows out there. I think getting them into plugins is something that's still a little bit of a challenge, and I think people are really still trying to figure out how that can work. And I think that, once again, the current architectures of how we do things can make a challenge. So it can be challenging in some ways to fit these new workflows into architecture frameworks, tools that haven't necessarily been built with that type of forethought in mind, right?
Yes, exactly.
So that's the thing, is that new tools necessitate new capabilities, right?
For sure.
And these things will just move forward like that. But I feel encouraged about where things are going to go. But I think it's a lot like the internet. I'm fortunately or unfortunately old enough to remember when the internet actually came along, before the internet happened. And I just remember the vision that when the internet first started getting big, people had this really idealized utopian vision of what it was going to be like. Oh, wow, we're all going to get along, and we're all, it's going to be this place it's going to be this place where all knowledge is going to be free, and everything is going to be, we're just going to know everything about everything. And now looking at it, 20, 25, 30 years later, it's like, is that the vision that we came out with? Well, sort of.
Maybe not.
I mean, there is a lot more knowledge out there than there used to be. Sure. The things that people have created, and the creations that have come out of this have been amazing, but it's been a double-edged sword. It hasn't quite turned into that utopian heaven vision that
For
that
sure.
people envision. And that's
It,
what I
it,
see. That's what I see with this new age of AI music
yeah.
creation. It's like people are saying, "Oh, where can we, you know, now it's going to be, we could just do anything," and it's going to be like, "Oh, well, yes," and I think is going to be the answer to that.
Okay.
Will be different. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the Back to the Future movie. Like the future is not like they were imagined to be, but
Right, right.
it's different, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
pretty cool. We will recommend also in the chat, like if you want to check out plugins based on AI, like you, Josh, had this competition of neural audio plugins, and
Mm,
those are very cool things to watch. And so we will link it in the chat. So a lot of interesting projects are there, right?
yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So Josh, one last topic we would like to talk with you. It's about more community.
Mm,
So we know that you have like the biggest community in the audio programming industry, and as we were saying to you, we also have a community, but it's like all Hispanic and Spanish speakers
mhm,
oriented. So I would like to say to ask you two questions. The first one is how much interest have you seen in the Hispanic community around the audio programming industry? And the second one is like, what would you say to all those enthusiasts or those who wants to get into the audio industry, into the audio programming industry, even if they are like hobbyists or in a more professional way? What would you say to them to dive into it and try to explore this world? Because I think it's not very known,
mm,
because in school they all teach us like, okay, recording, mixing, mastering, uh, post production of audio, but they never, or at most of the time they don't tell you about audio programming. It's like a very small niche.
mhm.
So yeah, what would you say to them, and how you see this Hispanic community in the industry?
Yeah, in terms of the Hispanic community, I think it's been amazing. And over the years, I've seen people in our community coming from all over the world, and especially in South America. South America is definitely a hot spot for music software development. And I think it makes sense because, for Latin America, music is such a integral part of your culture, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I would love to see is I would love to see like a native instruments, or a instrument creator or a plugin creator or audio music software company that was based somewhere in Latin America, and that produced instruments and effects and applications that were geared specifically towards Latin America, and towards people who were looking to create Latin American music. I think that the strength of community comes in your uniqueness and in the unique qualities that you can bring to the table, and those are going to be different than what I can bring to the table, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
um so your culture, your heritage, your background, your music, all of those things are the things that make you stand out. And it's kind of like how I did for the audio programmer, which is that I had to is that once again, I didn't plan it this way, but the way that it happened was that the audio programmer got built or built over time around my specific skill set. And my specific skill set, I am not the best software developer, right? So there is a lot, and people, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say that that my colleagues that I work with on a daily basis, um, they correct me all the time. And sometimes I do have a little case of imposter syndrome, where I feel like,
Yeah.
wow, all of these people around me, they know everything and I know nothing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and and that, yeah, like I said, I'm not the best software developer. at all. So I'm not like a, you know, some hot shot. But I know how to bring teams together. I know how to bring people together. I have this, um, you know, I don't know what, like I said, it's something that comes from God or whatever, where it's like I can take one person I said, and I can say that person would work well with this person, or these two people together would form a great team to build this thing. And just having that, and just having that strategic vision. And that's the thing that I know that I can bring to the table, is that I can see things like large scale. Um, and so when I built, so when the audio programmer formed, what happened was that it formed around that sense of unity and around that sense of community, and being together and working through learning audio programming together. And that was the unique personality that I brought to it. And that, for your community, you have to go back to that. What is it that I have? What is that's unique about me that nobody else has, that um that makes us unique, and lean into that. So a lot of people, they tend to try to generalize, because they say, well, if we're too Latin American, then we're not going to appeal to people in America, or we're not going to appeal to people in Germany. And what you have to realize is that's okay. That's great. That's great. In fact, once again, when it comes to, comparing it to my community and my focus, when you look at the world of music software development or audio software development, that is a large space, and there's a large space that I don't cover. For example, if you look at, and there are things that are happening out there in music technology that are than bigger than what the audio programmer does. So like things like Suno, and some of these other things that are happening on the web, and I have to be comfortable to say that's not the space that I really know about. I don't really understand that space in the same way that I understand plugins, and I understand DJ apps, and I understand my real-time audio and music and creator tools and that side of things. And that's the thing that I know about and that I have experience about. And I have to be comfortable that I can focus on that niche. And I think the way to maximize your community is by focusing on that. We're this is what we're about. This is the identity. And if you're into music and audio and you're coming from this background, then it's going to be in Spanish, probably primarily. And that we want to focus around creating tools that are unique and that show our personality. That's the thing that creates that resonance. And it creates resonance even for people that aren't in that space as well. Because like you look at, like I'm not a fan of Bad Bunny, for instance, but he is who he is, right?
Sure.
Like he brings to the table what he brings to the table, and that there are people that are from outside that culture and outside of that they look at that and they think that is really cool. If you look at hip hop, so I come from a hip hop background, which originally came from 70s and 80s Latin and Black people from New York in the ghettos and hoods of New York, right?
Yep.
And it's like we look from the outside and we see that element of personality, that magic that makes people unique, and we say, wow, that there's an energy there. There's something there that's really dynamic and really magic, and I want to be a part of that. I want to experience what that's like. And so it's all about capturing that thing and just shamelessly being you. Shamelessly being you, being yourself. And what was the second question?
It was about what would you say to these enthusiasts that want to come into the industry and try to learn audio
Yeah.
programming?
Yeah, same. So something along the same lines, which is that you have to go back to what are your experiences? What is unique about you? For me, it was DJing, right? That my
Mhm.
DJing background was unique. And so when I started learning about audio programming, everything centered around that. So, so if you're a violin player, congratulations, you know a lot more about music theory and about playing a violin and what it's like to play a stringed instrument
Yeah.
than anybody else, right?
Right.
So
Mhm.
you want to center your knowledge base around that. And when you center your knowledge base around that, then you have this combination. What happens is that you create I really think that the magic is in the combination of unique talents. So like violin, audio programming. Now I have this combination that is very difficult to replicate. For me, it's DJing, mental health, audio programming, right? Like I can
Okay.
guarantee you I don't know if there are many other people in the space that have those same three individual
Yeah.
skills. That's very unique and that's very individual to me. And that nobody else can replicate that, but you have to find that for people that are just starting out, you really have to find that combination that is unique to you. Maybe where you're from, it may be your background, it may be something that has nothing to do with music, but
Mhm.
you have to find that combination, and then that's where you start. That's where you have that nucleus and then form your skill set around that nucleus.
Wow. Well, Josh, thanks a lot. In behalf of the team, Rodolfo, Jesus, and all the chat, big shout out to the chat. We wanted to thank you for this time that you took the time to talk with us, and we are really had a great talk. And yeah, thanks a lot. Rodolfo, please.
Yeah, thanks for
Yes.
having me. Anytime. And I hope it was helpful for people, and reach out to me anytime.
Yeah. I would like to say one last thing. I want to play a game, a real quick game with you, Josh.
Ah,
Oh no,
I
es un examen en español.
un examen.
un examen.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Now,
What
I'm
game?
I'm going to say a quick sentence,
Uh-huh.
okay? And you will tell me like the first word that comes to your mind, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so there it's very quick. So the first one, AI in audio.
Uh, Yet to be seen.
Okay. Chat GPT,
A great tool.
Juice and C++.
A great place to start.
Audio programmer in YouTube tutorials.
Need to do more of them.
The future of plugins.
Exciting, creative, and could go a lot further.
Okay. The Hispanic audio programming community.
Unique and strong culture.
And last one, favorite Hispanic music artist.
Mana.
Oh,
Perfect.
wow, man. Bravo.
Yeah, I'm the world's biggest fan of Mana. I know
Mana.
every song. So my wife and I have
That's some
Labios
serious.
compartidos.
That's the one. That's a
Labios
serious statement.
divididos.
There are a lot of fans of Mana, so you have a great fight area in that.
Yeah. So Mana, Buena Vista Social Club as well, if you know Buena Vista Social
Really
Club.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Josh. So, well, that was it. Thank you very much again for your time and all the things that you share with us this night. We We will share all your social media links in our Discord community. Also, we invite you to our Discord community to join, and I think that's it. It
Yeah.
was a really nice time with you. So thank you very much. Josh.
Thank
If
you
you
very
want to
much,
say
Josh.
something in Spanish to say goodbye,
Yeah,
it's okay.
gracias a todo la gente por escuchando. Y espero que puedo ir otra vez pronto. Y nos vemos si estás en Ecuador y quieres
Vernos.
Charlar, reunirte.
charlar, platicar, mándame un email o un mensaje.
Perfecto.
Ahí lo tienen.
Muchas gracias y mucho gusto.
Muchas gracias, Josh.
Gracias, Josh.
All right.
Nos
Thank
vemos pronto. Chao.